Welcome back to my workshop. Now today's quick video, I'm going to show you how to put this new blade onto this bandsaw. So for my next project I need to do some resawing of wood. Now resawing is when you take a big chunk of wood and you slice it the length of the wood. So you end up effectively with your piece of wood and you split it down the middle. Now that's what I need to do, and I need to do quite a bit of it. So I'm going to change the blade on my bandsaw. Now at the moment this has got a 3/8 blade on it, and I need to change it to a 1/2 inch blade because you need a thicker blade for doing resawing. So first thing you need to do is turn off the machine. Turn it off and unplug it, because the last thing you want to do is end up losing our fingers. Right, I'm going to pull my machine out because it'll be easier to work on and easier to see. So, for those that are interested, this is a SIP machine. It's a 14-inch bandsaw and it's a 01366. Now the 14-inch comes from, let's get a tape measure. 14-inch comes from the depth of the throat, so between the blade and this. So that's the biggest piece you can actually cut. Okay, so the blade is a 98-inch blade. I've got a new one here. So the first thing we need to do is remove the fence, which in this case is fairly easy. So on this machine, literally loosen off the fence and slide it off. Put that to one side. So let's have a look at the blade first. So opening the doors with a screwdriver. Open, open. Okay, and the same on the bottom. Open. Right, so it's easier. Okay, so you've got a top wheel and a bottom wheel, and obviously the blade runs around the top and the bottom. The motor powers the bottom one and it goes all the way around. Okay, so we need to first of all remove the fence guide. Now this fence guide obviously is in the way. If you pull the blade out, which comes out this way, the fence guide is going to be in the way. So on this particular machine there's some release knobs underneath which will allow us to take the fence guide off. So let's have a look at that. So looking from underneath the table, there's 4 knobs here for releasing the guide. So literally just undo this. Now on other machines sometimes these are bolts or nuts, but on this machine luckily they're just knobs. So we'll remove this guide, give that a wipe in a minute, pull that to one side. Okay, so we don't need to do anything else with those now. Next thing to do is to release the tension on the blade itself. So let's do that. So on this particular machine, which is very similar to a lot of other bandsaws, the adjusting knob is at the top for the tension. Now all you've got to do is obviously loosen that, and that will move the top wheel down and therefore take off the tension off the belts. So let's do that. Okay, you can see the wheel, the top wheel is moving down. Now the blade is loose, so you should be able to remove it. Okay, now at this point let's put some gloves on. Okay, so the top wheel is now loose and the blade is also free to come off. So basically without poking yourself in the face, that's it, it's removed. Now there's a special way to fold these up which I'll show you in a moment. Let's just put it aside so we don't cut ourselves. Now, simple case of replacing the belt. Probably a good idea at this point to check the tyres on the bandsaw. So both the top and the bottom wheels have got a rubber tyre that the blade actually runs on. So probably a good idea to check to make sure there's nothing on those. Give them a quick clean, both top and bottom. Right, new blade. So here's your new blade. Now the ones I get have got a cable tie or 2 cable ties on them. So whatever you do, when you release these cable ties, mind your face, mind your hands, because everything is sharp because it's a blade. Okay, so release these by keeping a firm grip on the blade. Okay, so it's obviously under some tension, so it obviously wants to open. So when you're opening, be very careful. Okay, I survived. Now putting the new belt on. Oh, the new blade. Obviously this is the cutting area here, so the teeth have to be pointing downwards, because obviously the blade comes round and cuts down into the table. So make sure you've got the blade orientated correctly. So this side needs to have the teeth facing downwards. Okay, this is a wider blade. Okay, and it's, what's that, probably 4 teeth per inch. Okay, so all you do is you literally slide it back into the table. Move you over here so you can see. Slide it back into the table, into the groove here, round the top of the wheel at the top. Okay, so it's roughly in position. Then center it on the wheels. And then the reverse process as before, you then tighten up the top knob. Okay, obviously don't over tighten it straight away. Okay, on some machines, this one hasn't got them. On some machines you get a little dial, a dial indicator. So as you tighten it up, it will show you the tension it should be under. Now that's obviously graded for the thickness of the blade, the type of blade, etc. This machine hasn't got that gauge on it. So what I do is I'll tighten it up until it's in tune. So get it roughly tight. Then what you have to do is make sure that it actually runs around the wheels correctly. Now this is called the tracking, and you can adjust the tracking so the blade either runs in the middle of the wheel or at the back or the front, depending on what you prefer. Now I prefer it to run in the middle, so I'll show you how to adjust that now. So on the back of the machine you have the tracking adjustment knob, which is here, and it's got a lock nut on it. Now what you have to do is adjust this while turning the wheel by hand to get the tracking correct. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll loosen this off, which is the locking nut. So now I'm free to adjust the tracking on this knob. Okay, and I'll show you what effect that has when you turn the wheel. Okay, so you can see the blade here, and it's sitting just behind the front of the wheel. So if we turn the wheel, it stays in one place. So now if we adjust the tracking, you'll see what effect this has. So I'm turning the tracking wheel now, and you see it's moving closer and closer to the middle of the wheel. And if I turn it the other way, then it comes closer and closer to the front. Okay, now what you need to do is get this in a position you like. Some people prefer it to have the cutting teeth right close to the front of the wheel. I prefer to have mine closer to the centre. So turn the wheel. Obviously you can see I've gone too far there. Okay. Alright, so for me, that is about right. So it's just shy of the front of the wheel. Okay, and once that's in the right place, lock up the tracking knob and then turn it by hand again to check to make sure it doesn't drift. Okay, so we're happy with that. So now it's basically a reverse process, putting it back together. So the first thing to go back on is the fence guide. I'm going to give this a little brush to get rid of some of the sawdust that you can't normally get to. Okay, that will do. And then that literally slots back in where it came from. Okay, that slots back in the same place because it's got slots in it. In theory, it should go back in exactly the same place. Okay, and just tighten up your knobs. Okay, so on this particular model, it's got the cutouts for the grooves here, so make sure they're in the right place and make sure this is not sitting proud of the table. Okay, that's on. So now put the fence back on, which is exactly the opposite of taking it off. Bit fiddly on this one. Okay, so the fence is back on, the rail's back on, the tracking's okay. Now at this point you would, if necessary, you can adjust the roller bearings to make sure that you haven't got any problems there. That'll be a separate video, just to make sure your rollers are not actually rolling on the blade. Okay, then for now we can shut the doors. Now there's a safety switch up here. I'll show you here. Safety switch here, which stops you sticking your fingers in there when it's going. Okay, so that you can hear the switch there. Lock, lock. That's the top one done. Now the bottom one on this machine has got this little flap here. Now obviously when you go to close the door you have to lift this flap up. This covers around the bottom of the blade. Stop you sticking your fingers in there again. Lock the door. Okay, so in theory that's the blade changed. Now obviously a good idea at this point to check to make sure the blade's running true. I've got a small engineer square here. Check it against the table and against the blade. Let's get you so you can see. Excellent. So see if you can see. So yeah, just check to make sure this is straight. Now if it isn't, you can adjust the table by tilting it one way or the other. For me, this is could possibly do with a little bit of adjustment. So there's a nut and bolt underneath here, which I shall adjust. Okay, so on this table, the adjustment for the table is here. There's a locking nut. Literally undo the locking nut. and adjust your table. Let's come up here. Adjust your table until your square tells you what it wants to tell you. Okay. Good, and then you just lock up the locking nut. Okay, you shouldn't have to do this very often, but if you've moved your table about, your table saw about, not table saw, your bandsaw about, it may have adjusted. Okay, while you're adjusting that, check your fence, and again, adjust the fence. Let's go on here. So using the same square up against the fence, I can see this needs adjusting. And on this one, it's a case of loosening these, adjusting the top knob. Oh, it's fiddly, this one. Okay, tight, tight, tight. So now that is square up against the fence. So this is square, this is square. So in theory, if you cut anything, it should be square. Okay, so now the blade is changed, it's tensioned correctly, all the locking nuts are locked up, the fence is secure, the fence guide is secure, the doors are shut, plugged it back in, so you should be able to turn it back on now. Now obviously the first time you start it up, be very careful, be aware of what you're doing, and maybe a quick start and then a stop again, just to make sure. Okay, so start. And then stop. What you're listening for obviously is any sort of noises, clanging, banging, something's come loose. Once it's spun over, then it should be good to go. Okay, and then in theory you can cut some wood, so let's quickly do that. So got my piece of wood which I want to resaw, in other words I want to cut it down its length like this. Okay, nice new blade, nice straight fence, nice straight blade. Okay, let's get it to where we want to cut it, which is approximately in the middle here. Okay, no measurements on this one. Okay, start the machine and begin your cut. Okay, job done. Okay, hopefully you can hear me. Now, as I said, I was going to show you how to fold up the blades so you can keep them safely without taking up too much space. You literally take your blade like this, make sure you wear gloves, tread on it, can you see? Yeah, tread on it here, grab it like this, so underneath, and then twist all the way around and push down, and then that gives you your three loops. If I can get it off my shoe, it gives you your three loops that are all a bit tangled. Okay, so yeah, then you can either put tape around it or you can put a cable tie around it. But don't leave them like this without anything wrapped around them because they do spring open. Okay, so literally stand on it, twist it, push it down. That's how you store them. Okay, so that's it. That's the blade changed on my bandsaw. I've taken the thin one off. I've now got a 1/2 inch blade on there, so I can now get on with my next project, which needs a lot of resawing. Okay, thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this informative, but just remember, on things like this, be careful. Everything's sharp and everything wants to kill you. Okay, So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye. So on this machine, oh God.